There's three different types of people when it comes down to the ancient civilization. There is the establishment side that maybe will say, look, there is no such thing as ancient civilization.
Indeed so. Or no such thing as a lost civilization.
A lost civilization, right. No lost civilization. That's the right word.
Yeah.
And then number two is, there was a lost civilization. Then there's a different camp that says, yes, there's a lost civilization, but they didn't have no advanced technology that you're talking about. And then there's the third camp that says there is the lost civilization and they had incredible advanced technology. Which of those three do you associate yourself more with?
None of them.
None of them.
No, so because the word advanced is extremely nuanced. What I'm talking about, and this is an area where my work has been repeatedly, deliberately, and in a calculated way misrepresented by archaeologists who don't like my work and the ideas that I'm suggesting. When I talk about an advanced civilization, let's be clear, I think that all civilizations on this planet emerged ultimately out of shamanism. If we go back into the Stone Age, if we go back into what's called the Upper Paleolithic, we will find that the world was pretty much shamanistic at that time. Every culture, every tribe, every group would have had its shaman who was bringing healing and who was dealing, if you like, with the supernatural. That's what shamans still do today in the Amazon rainforest. So I think that all cultures emerged out of a shamanistic background. But what I'm suggesting is that during the Ice Age, there was one culture which went quite a bit further than other cultures from that same shamanistic background. It's a characteristic of shamanism, which a lot of people don't realize, is that true shamans are extremely scientific. If you go to the Amazon rainforest, as I've done quite frequently, and as I do for season 2 of Ancient Apocalypse, and sit down to drink the powerful visionary brew, ayahuasca, you will discover that the shamans are constantly sampling plants. They're in an experimental, highly rigorous, rational way. They're sampling plants. They're adding admixtures to an existing brew, if that's the case. How else could they have created curare, for example? Curare is an Amazonian invention. Curare is still the basis of modern anesthesiology. It involves 11 different plants, none of which are effective on their own. You have to mix them all together. Same with ayahuasca. It involves 2 different plants, none of which are effective on their own, but mixed together, they become effective. And when you remember that there's more than 100,000 different species of plants and trees in the Amazon, then you are looking at a scientific project to find, locate, and create these things. And this is true of shamanism in general. So I think that there was one shamanistic culture back during the Ice Age which went further than others. And when I say advanced, I want to be absolutely clear. I am not looking for us in the past. I am not talking about a civilization that had iPhones and flew to the moon, or built rocket ships or Teslas, for example, a high-tech machine civilization. But I am talking about a civilization that had gone much further than others during the Stone Age. And where it had gone, where I derive this from, is the evidence of a knowledge of longitude on ancient maps. Now, longitude are the vertical lines down the map, and latitude is the horizontal. Longitude is a problem that our civilization was unable to solve until the mid-18th century. It was always a risk being out at sea in a sailing ship, and you can't quite calculate the wind speed and the currency. If you say you're sailing from Britain to America, you have no idea at any point exactly how far away you are from the American coast. And it's quite possible in the dead of night, if you've done your calculations wrong, that you're going to crash into that coast and hit it. It was a deadly, deadly problem. It was really important to know where you were at sea. It wasn't until the mid-18th century that Western civilization solved the longitude problem. And in fact, there was a huge prize being offered for anybody who could solve the longitude problem. Well, eventually they did by creating a chronometer which could keep accurate time at sea. But before that, nobody knew where they were in terms of longitude. It was always a rough guess.
What did they use back then? What did Columbus use when he went from Spain to Caribbean to here? Was it just a wing job?
Just rough guesswork. Just rough. And he, of course, didn't know. Columbus didn't even know for sure whether he was going to find a continent on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. But he had reason to believe he would, which touches on these ancient maps that I speak about. There was a sense that there was something there. But he wouldn't have known at any point in his voyage how far west of Greenwich in the UK he was. He wouldn't have had any idea. So knowing longitude was a real huge breakthrough for seafarers in our epoch, for our civilization. But these ancient maps that I'm speaking about, which are in many cases maps that were produced in the 14th, 13th, maybe 15th century, but always based on copies of older source maps now lost. The Orontius Phineas world map is an example. The Piri Reis map is an example. And many of the maps that are called portolanos that map the Mediterranean Sea are an example. They all contain extremely accurate relative longitudes. And they should not do so. Even if they were just made in the 14th century and not based on earlier source maps, they shouldn't have relative longitudes, but they do. So that's one reason why I'm pretty confident that the longitude problem was cracked much, much earlier, because some of these maps show the world as it looked during the last ice age. The Orontius Phineas map actually shows Antarctica as well, yet our civilization didn't discover Antarctica until 1820, and there it is on a map from the 1500s.
I want to show you this. So maybe to the audience that doesn't follow this, if you can pull this up, I just pulled up the Piri Reis map.
Well, the Piri Reis is only a bit of a map. That's all that's survived from the map, and it shows a bit of South America and a bit of Africa. The relative longitudes are good, but can we find the Orontius Phineas, Orontius Phineus?
Orontius.
Yeah, and there we are. Well, what you're seeing on that map from the mid-1500s is at the very tip of South America and at the very tip of South Africa, you're seeing Antarctica. That's what that huge land, that's South America on the right, and that's the tip of South America, and it's touching an enormous continent, which is also at the south of South
Rob, can
Africa.
you show which one is South America that you're showing? So South America would be...
So keep going down, bottom right. Bottom right, keep going. That's South America.
Okay.
Go left. That's South Africa.
Okay.
Go right from there. That's Antarctica. And it even says the Antarctic Circle down there. That is Antarctica. And that's a problem because our civilization did not discover Antarctica until 1820. We had no idea. And there are other maps. Could you find the Pinkerton world map from 1813, say, or roughly 1813? Let's see how it shows Antarctica. Pinkerton world map. No, that's not the bit of it. Keep going. Yes, the next one, the first one on the left there. That
bottom middle, right there.
Middle, right?
We'll go
No.
One more
go
to
right,
the right.
one more.
Right there,
That's it. There. That's how Antarctica is shown on a map.
Non-existent.
It isn't there.
Right.
And that's because it's an honest map.
That's 1818.
Yeah, 1818.
And you said that's because it's an honest map?
It's an honest map because at that time, navigators from our civilization hadn't found Antarctica. So they could only say, they couldn't map it because they hadn't seen it. Okay, that's the thing. That's why there's no Antarctica on this map. But a few years later, 1820, Antarctica is discovered and it starts to appear on maps. But the anomaly is that it appears on these much earlier maps as well. Maps based on copies of even older source maps. And that suggests to me that somebody was mapping the world long before us. And furthermore, these maps often show the world amazingly much as it looked during the last ice age. The world was very different during the ice age. Antarctica was much bigger during the ice age than it is today. For example, the Malaysian peninsula and the Indonesian islands were all joined together into a single landmass that reached almost as far as New Guinea. New Guinea was joined to Australia. This was because sea level was 400 feet lower during the ice age than it is today. The world looked very different, and some of these ancient maps show the world as it looked during the last ice age.
Very interesting. And the fellow who discovered Antarctica was Nathaniel Palmer.
I believe so.
And do you know who he was and what he did?
No, because I'm fundamentally not interested in who discovered Antarctica in our era. What I am interested in is the fact that it was discovered in our era, around about 1820, and before that there was no knowledge of Antarctica.
And so what's your point with this? Is it to go back and say the other map, which is the Pinkerton world map, had Antarctica?
No, the Pinkerton World
It's
Map.
the honest map that didn't have it.
The Pinkerton World Map is an honest map based on the latest information that was available to navigators at that time. And it's not, Antarctica is not on that map because they hadn't found it yet.
And why does this matter?
Well, it matters because if Antarctica is present on ancient maps, then it means that somebody was able to sail the world, to explore the world's oceans, and to map the world's oceans, and furthermore to do so with rather good relative longitudes. That's what I mean when I talk about an advanced civilization, a civilization that had advanced astronomy, that was able to observe the stars, understand the rising and setting points of stars, navigate using stars, and that was able to explore and map the world. Therefore, it had some significant seafaring ability. But I'm not talking about a civilization that had motor cars or airplanes or iPhones.
I got you. So you've said, I think in the Ancient Apocalypse that you don't see yourself as an archaeologist, not a scientist, but as a journalist, right? Like as a researcher.
Definitely.
So as you research and go even deeper, is there any fingerprints of who was the first to find out about Antarctica at that time, especially if it's 1400, 1300, 1500?
Well, the only
what name is mentioned?
No names are mentioned. It's just said to be there. There's on that Orontius Phineas map, there's a legend written in Latin at the bottom of it, and where the mapmaker boasts about revealing to the world areas that had been hidden in darkness before that. And that sounds to me like ancient maps that had been hidden away, and that some had been found.
You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but the last 13 and a half years, I've been working on my first fiction book to write, ever. Fiction book to write. And while I finished this book, a year ago, I got the strangest phone call about one of the characters in the book where the guy wanted to meet with me, and he read the book. And afterwards, was like, wait a minute, am I the villain in the book? This is a story about a character named Asher, who is half Armenian, half Assyrian, whose father was involved in the Iranian Revolution, linked to Savak, working with the Shah, that they escape and he gets recruited to a secret society. When you go to the secret society, it's been around for a couple thousand years. They've developed some of the craziest leaders of all time. And they test you. There's unique tests that they have at this society where they test to see your emotional mental toughness. One of the tests that they have is very rigorous. It's purely mental. Of course, there's a physical one, but one is mental and emotional. If you're Armenian, if you're Syrian, if you're Persian, this is a book you're going to be reading and saying, holy moly, this is the kind of stuff you talk about in here? Yes. If you're somebody that's fascinated by history, this is a book for you. Characters. There's a technology that this society, secret society, builds where you go into a vault. I won't spoil it for you. When you go down, they have a technology where you get to sit down and watch and have a 3-4 hour conversation with Tupac. You can set up a debate between Karl Marx and Ayn Rand. Karl Marx is in the book, who wrote Communist Manifesto. Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, is in the book. Marilyn Monroe explains the concept of seduction and sex in the book. When you read the book, it's about development of the next leaders in the world and how they do it and how they've been doing it for many years. And it's also about how to prevent the end of civilization and how this organization goes about doing it. So, I've never written a parenting book before, but if I ever wrote a parenting book, this is the closest thing to it because it's all mindset, a lot of crazy stories. Again, 13 and a half years. Trust me, I told myself I will not publish this book until I sell my insurance company and I'm fully disconnected from it, where it's no longer my responsibility 100%. When you read this, if you're a creative person, if you like fiction books, if you enjoyed Atlas Shrugged, or if you enjoy Divergent, if you like books like that, I think you're going to enjoy reading this book. It's the creative side. Business books is very easy. Here's how you do it. Here's how this how it works. This is very creative. If you haven't placed the order yet, now you can order it on Simon & Schuster, Amazon. I'm going to put the link up below somewhere here, maybe even in my profile. Go order the book and read it. I've never written a book where I can't wait to read your reviews to see what you think about this book. So I'm going on this wild journey, and we have some plans with this book here. If you support the things that I work on, I would appreciate you going and reading the book, order the book on Amazon, and then post a review.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.